You're listening to the Vetted VA podcast, Your Journey Home. Nathan Nottingham is your host today, and he'll be chatting with Christopher Thomas.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Vetted VA podcast. We are in our series of interviews with Vetted VA professionals. These are men and women that are in mortgage and real estate who have been with Vetted VA for a number of years. And in fact, Christopher Thomas, our guest today, has been with us for, I want to say it's about 4 years specifically, maybe a little bit longer, because I think he was part of the group even before we launched our vetting process and our testing process. And man, it has been, Christopher, welcome. It's been an amazing journey to be on this with you, to watch you grow. We've watched you kind of go from working with a shop to starting your own shop to growing that to being to having a bigger family. Like, I love how we've been in each other's lives a little bit more, and thank you for being on here. So tell everybody about yourself, where you come from, your background, your company. Love to hear some of your story.
Okay, cool. So thanks for having me on. And it's right. Like Vada VA community's been there through a lot, almost everything in the last 5 years or so, which has been a lot for me. But I am from Grosse Pointe, Michigan, which is on Lake St. Clair. It is not a great lake; it's just a small lake. So I'm sandwiched between the lake and Detroit in the suburbs.
Gotcha.
That's where I'm from. I went to Michigan State to be a science teacher. Didn't end up panning out for me, but I fell into mortgages, and I've been doing mortgages for about 8 to 9 years. 5 years at a large shop, and then 3 years on my own with some support and encouragement from Beta VA as well.
And more than just on your own, I think you're working. It's more of a family affair in your world, right?
Right. I kind of do the originations and sales, and my wife does the processing and balancing of the CD, and we work hand in hand. And that's something we realized during COVID, that we could do this start to finish and deliver a better product to the consumer.
That's awesome. Now, Grosse Pointe, that's not like Grosse Pointe Blank from the
That
movie, is it?
it is. It is.
It is? Oh,
Although
okay. I
with
didn't
movies
realize that.
they don't film a lot like on location. There's probably only a
Right.
snippet or two of, our gorgeous high school that was built in the 1920s.
That's cool. Yeah. Um, just that's a random callback, but I actually enjoyed that movie back in the day. So look, you've been part of VA. We've had some great growth and structure with your service there. So tell me about, like, where's your passion come from for the VA home loan? Why you chose to pour so much time, energy, and finances into training yourself, into engaging in this community, supporting it. Like, where's that come from?
I think it starts off with upbringing of both my grandparents served in World War II,
Mm,
and had some uncles who served in Vietnam, and so and a cousin who served in the Navy. So like a lot of times we're very close to veterans, even if we didn't serve or our parents didn't serve. Um, you know, Military service touches everybody in this country in some way. Or if it doesn't, we can be grateful for those who serve and sacrifice. And, that's the reason we have a lot of things and live a free life and get to do what we do. So that's
yeah.
one component of it. But also early in my career as a loan originator, I've been working with veterans since day one on VA purchases, cash outs, EARLs, and I became like obsessed is a common word to use, but there's so much in VA guidelines that can
Mhm.
be used to help secure a loan, where a lot of times veterans are turned down uh, based on almost like ignorance or missing something on guidelines because the VA loan is so flexible. So going above and beyond or being that second opinion and being able to get
Yeah.
things done is such a motivator to me, to turn things around or to help people get what they need.
So talk to me about one of the most memorable VA loans you've ever been a part of. Anything come to mind?
Okay, like most recent memory is a couple of years ago, I had a veteran who wanted to buy a home from their parents. They're offloading an investment property, and there was no agents involved. It was just me and the family working through this. Sometimes that comes with some pressure to perform, but it also gives me full autonomy of being the director. So that was
Mm,
great. So the parents just wanted a fair value, not the highest value the home appraised for. So with that at my disposal, the veteran had about $15,000 in personal debt, and the closing
Oh,
costs were
wow.
about 7 or 8,000. So we strategically set the purchase price higher and the and aimed high with the appraised value. So we were able to walk away from the transaction with no money out of pocket for the veteran and all his $15,000 in debt paid off. So he was only had a mortgage payment to be responsible for moving forward.
Dude, I absolutely love that. Let's use this for an education pivot because you used a special thing that the VA loan has the ability to do, which is about seller concessions. So, how did you frame that deal to help pay off debts that had nothing to do with the actual purchase transaction?
Right. So the a lot of people might think that the VA concessions might be capped at 4%, but I just always think of it 4% plus. So you can allocate your seller concessions toward the buying down of an interest rate, paying off personal debt, anything related to actual closing costs, appraisals, title fees,
Yep.
things like that. So we're able to manipulate that one variable to have a really successful transaction.
Well, I think that's the takeaway, right? So seller concessions are you read it and you're going, it's capped at 4%, but then it says not included are customary closing costs such as, and it talks about discount points, prepayments of insurance, yes, insurance, title, taxes. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. The appraisal costs, things like that. So I love that because it does go in and clarify. It's like yes, it's capped at 4%, but so really it's kind of an uncapped mentality. So you were able to take the closing costs, calculate those out, set those aside. You were able to take the purchase price and say, okay, what's 4% of the purchase price? How much money can we get from that? Is that enough to cover the debt payoff? And so what's the actual physical transaction place then for, one of the audience listening to either a professional or a VA eligible home buyer, and they're going, "Oh my gosh, I wonder if I could pay off some debts." Like, what did that look like for the veteran? What did he have to take to closing? How does that close out?
Right. So on the actual closing disclosure, so you start off with the credit report and you think about, okay, let's go through your debts. What has the highest interest rate or what do you want to pay off?
Mhm.
Snowball or avalanche methods, that could be for another time, but we looked at the whole thing, the whole menu, right? So those debts are listed on the closing disclosure to be paid off. So the title company is going to distribute the check to those creditors, such as
Mhm.
Amex, Home Depot, maybe a car place or something. So those get paid off all within that loan amount. And then really the only thing you can do is get cash back on a VA
Right.
loan. So, you know, the world's your oyster.
It's awesome. I've even seen it even allows for for the acquisition of assets. So they could even buy or pay for, a new stove, microwaves, refrigerators, like that can actually be covered in that seller concession as well, which is so unique in lending as it stands. Now, up there in where you're at in Grosse Pointe, like are there a lot of veterans that you run into up there? Is it a small handful? How are you finding to help these individuals?
A lot are finding me on the Veta VA map and because they might be relocating. So
Mm,
it seems like the common themes are there's not a lot of military bases in Michigan.
mhm.
There's one in Grayling and there's Army base in Warren, and then there's a Air Force base in Selfridge. Those are kind of the main spots, but mostly I'm just getting people who are relocating back to Michigan for a lower cost of living,
Yeah.
um, to be around family to support them raising a family, which
Hmm.
I know is critical. My parents live close by.
Yeah.
Um, Relocating for work opportunities. So it seems like this is a maybe a retirement step for some, or a low cost of living play, or a family play being in Michigan. There are 4 seasons in winter. As long as you can bear the winter, people really enjoy it here. There's a lot of great uh, nature and all the great lakes and places to go.
I love that. Yeah, get into the map. If anybody's listening, they were like, "Well, I want to know how do I get a hold of Chris? How do I get a hold of other VetaVA pros?" You just go to vetava.com and click on the state where you're looking at getting engaged, interested with, or maybe moving to, or currently living in, and you'll see a list of everybody who's what we call a VetaVA active professional. What would you say to other professionals? What has been the greatest turn for you in your development, being a part of VetaVA and the training we do?
But just staying sharp, like sharp as a knife and having the community. Veta VA
Mm,
professionals page or just the peer groups in the inner chats. You're learning so much and like those circulars come out. When I was a green loan officer,
mhm.
I didn't know that the VA dropped circulars of new information and updates. It's not just like breezing through them, but really understanding, okay, what's this about? How's it impacting? And how can I implement this?
That's awesome. I love that. Um, you know, when we look at the VA loan and kind of the power it does, I think we have a great takeaway there. Seller concessions, very powerful. But let's set that one aside because we already covered it. What's another thing about the VA loan that you just love sharing with people that call you or like, I don't even know if I can do this. I've got a VA eligible. Like, what's something that you lean into to share with most people that you found to be that big aha moment with VA lending?
I just truly believe it is the single best loan type of all time. And it's like just the bullet points are most accommodating FICO score. So a lot of
Hmm.
people think that they need to work on their credit or hesitant to apply. But sometimes you can get somebody approved in the 500s and watch them build their credit or take advantage of the rates now versus later because there's a easy way to refinance and fix the interest rate problem if the market presents itself. So
Hmm.
one is the FICO flexibility. Number two is no down payment needed and no mortgage insurance.
Yep.
Three, the concessions that we already touched on. Four, the appraisal process with multiple rebuttals opportunities, which I've successfully rebutted. And really, to be transparent, the only cons would be maybe pest and water inspections, but those are also really good to know as a home buyer to have safe drinking water or to
Yeah.
know that you don't have a termite infestation. And it's usually a $100 to $200 like report. And then the last con or just something to be conscious of is the funding fee. So I had somebody buy in Ann Arbor recently
Hmm.
and they weren't quite out yet, so we decided to go conventional 5% that down, and then recently refinance them into the VA loan to avoid the funding fee. So we had an educated and informed discussion. We
Hmm.
weighed our pros and cons, and that's how we decided to do it, and it ended up working out great.
So, well, let's talk about that. That's such an interesting way to do it. Not bad, especially if it's an informed discussion, right? Here are your options. You are a broker, right? And this person came to you and said, "How do I do this?" And you're like, "Well, here's how we can do it. Here's all the different ways we can lay it out." So, with the 5% conventional, they still paid mortgage insurance for a small amount of time, right? Or you probably had that built into the interest rate to some degree, right?
Right, so they did pay a small mortgage insurance. They had great outstanding credit, which factors into the mortgage insurance on conventional.
That's right.
So we weighed everything. Okay, if we refinance you in 2 years and you're paying mortgage insurance and a little bit higher interest rate, well, at least you're not paying plus percent on a $600,000 loan, which is 18 to $20,000 rolled into your
Mm,
balance.
right.
That outweighs the mortgage insurance and a little bit higher interest rate for a year or two.
So, and so that funding fee, you took that, you said, okay, because the funding fee to the three-ish percent, depending on how many times they've used their loan and all that stuff. So the funding fee is calculated in, it's added to the principal of the loan. That adjusts the payments, but it's also just really adjusting the whole amount you're borrowing because when you refinance, that funding fee is not credited back if you refinance in 6 months. It is a set fee paid out at one time, and that's it. And so then you pay that over the time of the loan. So in this position, I assume then that active duty service member who was then getting out probably had a medical retirement or sorry, a disability rating of some type.
They just had not had their rating yet
Got it.
determined. So we just didn't want to gamble on trying to fight for a refund.
I think that's actually really smart because how long did they hold that loan, that conventional note loan?
Was 1 to 2 years.
Okay. So let's just say 24 months at a prince. So if they did a PMI, that mortgage insurance at 24 months, that was, let's, I don't know, maybe it was $120 a month. You're looking at quick math. Hold on. I can quick math this with a calculator. Do you do this all the time? I do this all the time. I have to
Uh,
grab a calculator. I'm like, okay, let's just do the
my
math real
s
fast.
my son actually got a harmonica for Christmas, a Hot Wheels track, and a calculator, so we're big on calculating things.
I love it. Okay, so 24 months at $120 a month, that was $2,880. What do you remember what the purchase price was?
Let's just say 600.
So it was a $600,000 purchase. If they would have paid the funding fee, that would have been a one time of 18,000, like you said, 18 to 20,000. So it totally makes sense. Like even paying the $2,800 a month over the 24 months and then getting their rating and then refinancing the VA loan. Now they don't have a funding fee. So they did totally save themselves money in the long run and are paying themselves equity back faster. I mean, that is a smart move. That sounds like a ton of good sense when it comes to creating value for your veteran, especially when it
Correct.
made the most sense.
And this varies by person to person too. This is a client who pays extra on their mortgage and wants to get ahead, so rolling that into their balance, they're not about that. They're mindful of their equity and they want to pay it down further. This is their last stop, their retirement stop.
Got it.
Gonna be empty nesters. They're looking at the bigger vision. So it's good to, always look at your short and long-term goals.
Well, I'm glad they found you and understanding what you do about the loan, the funding fee, the different loan types, and how they can kind of play together for their vision long term. You're right. You save them. Gosh, you probably saved them like 2 years of mortgage payments off the principal side just to pay off that loan faster over time. So, I mean, that's huge. Absolutely was cool. Well, is there anything else you would share with the group, the audience about the VA loan, about what you do and why you do what you do?
I think like any buyer, I just appreciate early conversations. The earlier you talk to a loan officer, figure out, okay, can I have two VA loans at one time with 100% financing, or like getting ahead of these things. If your goal is to buy in 2025, even if it's
Mm,
in September, like let's talk now, right? Let's plan now. Let's see all your options now. One, because that dream house or that house might pop up in June. And by the way, if you close in, pops up in June, closes in July, August, your first payment's September. You're planning to buy in September anyway, right? You already have the house, you're ready. So having early conversations, maybe you get into working on some credit or paying off debt. A lot of people think they have to pay off like all their debt before they apply, when a VA loan is so accommodating with DTI and everything. It's something that, yeah, you should address and work on it, have a conversation about it. But it, it shouldn't be a deterrent to starting the conversation or talking.
make it a plan, man. That is such a huge thing, and one that I find in talking to more veterans and service members, and I wear the Veta VA logo. Christopher Griffith is the partner and the guy who helped launch this and brought me. We've built it, but with professionals um, like Chris here, and I didn't serve. Right, I have family that did. Christopher Griffith is the Marine veteran, and so we kind of bring our two skill sets together. But I know that passion drives from it. But what I have found in handling and working with more veterans and active duty service members is that they sometimes coming out of the service, it's like you don't plan. You just get orders and then you have to go. And then when it's time to plan, it's like, oh gosh, I need to actually like stop and plan a little bit longer. And it's great to have a pro to call ahead of time, say, I don't know exactly when this looks like, but here's what I want to do. What do I need to do to prep? That's
Exactly.
awesome. That's fantastic. All right. Well, man, I appreciate you greatly. Thank you so much for being a part of the Vet VA professionals, the pros. Thank you for going through all the training. I mean, just to be clear, you've done roughly 30 hours of continuing training on the VA home loan. You serve in the group. People can find you in the VVA main group. Veterans and active duty service members, their family members are welcome to join that VVA Facebook group. You moderate and support the VVA for Professionals group, helping other professionals answer questions and serve their community. Thank you for all the time you spend just giving. Make sure to thank your wife for us as well, and your little baby boy. Like, I appreciate you guys so much.
Appreciate you too. And just to add to that, um, is what I also appreciate about VA is we're getting with legislators as well. So we do have bills on the floor in Michigan to help with property tax exemption. So Veta VA, I wouldn't have been able to have that opportunity to participate without Veta VA and really make something better for everybody, not just myself. So that feels great.
I love that. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you were looking at this and you want to know more about Chris Thomas and Iris Mortgage there in Grosse Pointe, Michigan, please do check out the Michigan state on vetivier.com or look him up. There will be information in the show notes. You can also find him all over social media showing the Iris Mortgage hockey team. I know that he's got some fun photos on that one, but never played hockey. Scares me to death to be on skates. So I look at those and I'm like, that's cool. I don't know what I would do in that situation. So thanks, dude. I appreciate you very much. And with that, we'll be around next time for the next interview. Everybody
Okay.
have a great time.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you for listening to the VetiVA podcast, Your Journey Home. We hope this information has been helpful, enjoyable, engaging, supportive. But here's the biggest call to action for you. If you are a veteran, a service member, a family member of the same, and you have earned or have access to the VA home loan eligibility and have questions, please feel free to join us at VetaVA on Facebook. Go to facebook.com, search for the VetaVA group, and you'll find it. Answer some of the questions to enter, and once you do that, you're good to go. If you're a professional, a real estate agent, lender, insurance agent, you know the drill. Well, as a professional, we'd love to have you join the professionals only group. We do all the same information, but at a little bit different scope because, well, of how you're coming into that information to support yourself and the other consumers that you work with. So please join VetaVA on Facebook or VetaVA for Professionals on Facebook. Follow us on TikTok, wherever you can find it. And as always, all the white papers, the resources, the documents, and the training, the free training courses are available at vetava.com. You'll find them all there. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. My email is nathan@vettedva.com. I'm the COO, and I'm ready to help. Glad you tuned in for this episode, and looking forward to bringing you the next one. Take care.